Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ, and it is a developing story. The Broncos are all out of quarterbacks for tomorrow's game against the Saints. CBS Sports NFL insider Jason Canfora confirms that Drew Lock, Blake Bortles, and Brett Rippon are ineligible to play because they were not wearing masks when in contact with fellow quarterback Jeff Driskel, who was placed on the COVID list on Thursday. For now, the game is still on. Our Jonathan Jones confirms that practice squad wide receiver Kendall Hinton could line up at quarterback. He was a 3-year starter under center for Wake Forest. And for once, welcome in the aforementioned CBS Sports NFL insider Jason Canfora. And Jason, this is a wild story out of Denver. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, we're in an era now where we're seeing things we never thought that we would see before. And I guess you kind of become a little bit callous to some of it, or you say, well, that doesn't shock me. Well, this situation in the history of the NFL, I think you have to say is somewhat shocking, but obviously viewed through the lens of 2020 and the pandemic. No, if you have a quarterback who tests positive and you have other quarterbacks around him and you're still practicing, which the league allowed them to do for a couple days, despite Jeff Driskel, backup quarterback, having a positive, then you could certainly get in a scenario like this. I mean, you know, the Baltimore Ravens have Trace McSorley and they have Lamar Jackson. The RG3 hasn't tested positive tomorrow. But if he were to, the Ravens are in that same situation at that position come Tuesday. So Royce Freeman is their emergency quarterback. I think he threw the ball 5 times in college. He has completed some gimmick stuff in the past. You know, Hinton is a possibility, although he hasn't played the position with any regularity since 2015 at Wake Forest. They're not going to throw the ball a whole lot. I mean, the reality is this is going to be a Wildcat-type look. Some Broncos fans might say, hey, we beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs with Tim Tebow. That wasn't a heck of a lot different than this. But you're not going to see a lot of downfield passes. Your receivers are going to be used to block. You're going to go with a tackle eligible pretty much all the time. And you're going to get what you can get out of the quarterback position in terms of rushing yards. I still tend to think it'll be a lot of Royce Freeman in the Wildcat, to be honest with you, when all's said and done. But they do have a couple of different looks that they can throw at you with Hinton, who, again, at least played the position for a while in college. But everybody's dealing with their own adversity. Every team is in a different position. And if you can get 45 healthy bodies, and the league doesn't feel that playing those 45 healthy bodies will lead to further spreading events, then you're going to play the game. And in this case with Denver, they feel like it was all isolated to that position group. Obviously, when you're talking about what the Ravens are dealing with, offensive line, defensive line, quarterback, running back, it's been rampant through their organization. That's a little different story as to why that game was pushed back, because they continue to have multiple positives every day at multiple positions.
So what are the chances then the NFL pushes this game back?
I'd be very surprised at this point if they do. I'd be surprised. It's not impossible. Nothing's impossible. And they've made decisions late in the game. But having just talked to the league office a few minutes ago, unless there are new, fresh positives for the Broncos tomorrow that involve players who are not currently on the COVID restricted list, then it's a possibility. But based off what we know right now, they would be set to play this game.
All right, Jason Canfora with the latest here on CBS Sports HQ. Again, the Broncos all out of quarterbacks for Sunday's game against the Saints. And get this, Noah Fant, Broncos tight end, none too pleased, saying, quote, I'm not one to complain, but NFL, y'all can't possibly send us into a game without a quarterback, the most important position to an offense. We don't even got a backup. He's got a point. And for once, welcome to CBS Sports NFL insider Jonathan Jones. And Jonathan, what are you hearing right now about this developing story out of Denver?
Well, I can tell you that Denver is certainly not pleased. The Broncos are not pleased. The quarterbacks are also not pleased. Jeff Driskel obviously testing positive. Reports out of Denver are that he is asymptomatic, but still, of course, tested positive. Where the NFL decided about these high-risk close contacts, it wasn't just the tracking devices that all players are required to wear throughout the facility. it is also using surveillance footage from around the team facilities and seeing who is close with one another and who's wearing masks and when they aren't. Of course, you can have the tracking device on you. Tracking device doesn't indicate whether or not you're wearing a mask. And it does appear that the group of Broncos quarterbacks in team meeting rooms, whether they were socially distanced or not, were not wearing masks. And the NFL has, of course, been telling players for a very long time, hey, you got to wear the masks inside the facility. We have seen the intensive protocols be implemented as recently as last Saturday. Of course, players now, even during games when they are not immediately substituting into a game, are required to wear masks starting this week in the NFL calendar. So that's what it appears has gone on in Denver, that the players may have felt that they were doing what was necessary in order to stay safe by being socially distanced in the team meetings. But the NFL and frankly, any number of folks would tell you, well, you still got to wear a mask. They were not, and so that is why they have been deemed, the other quarterbacks, high-risk, close contacts, and that's why not a single designated quarterback will be able to play tomorrow against the Saints.
So, Jonathan, you confirmed the news that it's possible that practice squad wide receiver Kendall Hinton could be the quarterback. He was a 3-year starter under center at Wake Forest. Is that right now the likely situation for Denver?
Yeah, it's unclear. If they want to throw the ball, that is the most likely situation. And listen, we've been wrong before about what a team's going to wind up doing in the game, especially at the quarterback position. We don't have to go much further back than 2 weeks ago at the start of the week when we all figured it'd be Jameis Winston, and then it was Taysom Hill at the end of the week. For this scenario, if Vic Fangio and Denver decide that they're going to throw the ball, Kendall Hinton gives you the best opportunity to throw the football. This is a guy who was a state champion in high school. I know that was a long time ago, and it was high school, but he goes to Wake Forest, high Division I. He played the position up until his senior year when he made the transition to the receiver position when he wasn't going to get any burn anymore at that quarterback spot. And then he was an undrafted free agent as a wide receiver. So he's played at a high level at the quarterback position. So if you want to throw, that's who you're going to throw with. But, are they going to run a bunch of Wildcat? Sure. And then we're going to see a lot of Royce Freeman. Absolutely. If they decide that we're gonna do some old school football, we're gonna look like the Georgia Tech triple option and maybe go 3 for 5 passing, then we're probably not going to see a whole lot of Kendall Hinton. But all of that is, of course, to be decided. The Broncos can't just institute a brand new offense. This is going to extremely limit them on what they're going to be able to do. I can't imagine that anyone is going to pick the Broncos to win this game, because the parity in the NFL is such that, it's any given Sunday. We all understand that. And, the Broncos even last week surprised us against the Miami Dolphins. But the most important position in football, the most important position in sports is the quarterback position. And even though one team has a great one, another one has a good one or a mediocre one, you can still get by. You can still be in a game most weeks. But if you don't have any quarterback, you cannot be in the game. And Denver, I understand. We just had Noah Fant's tweet up. He's upset because he understands they don't have a chance to win the game because they don't have a quarterback. But the NFL has been very clear for many months. They have not wanted to tell us about their plans and their contingencies on a few things, right? And we're still waiting on Week 18, and we're still waiting to figure out if there's going to be 14 or 16 teams in the postseason, and if there's going to be a bye here or there, whatever. But what we know with the NFL is that they are not going to push a game just because you had a catastrophe at one position and it just so happened to be quarterback. Oh, well, we're going to keep playing that game. It's happened to other teams before at other less meaningful positions. And we just had JLC on, and I think that he said it perfectly. Listen, when you can't identify and isolate the virus in a team where it's popping up every single day, multiple positive tests at various position groups, you don't know who has it, who doesn't have it, who's going to have it by the time you play the game. it's not safe to play the game. But the NFL, the league, certainly feels that they have been able to identify the virus. They have identified the close contacts of the virus, and they feel that they can hold a game between the Broncos and Saints and comfortably believe that no one on the field is positive with COVID-19. And so I would be stunned, floored, if this game is moved from its scheduled date tomorrow.
So then how much pressure can John Elway apply to the league office to try and get this pushed back?
None. I mean, he can try. I'm sure he has all their numbers. I'm sure he doesn't want to go out there and play that game with no quarterback. As a former quarterback himself, I would be stunned, because I think that the NFL, I was just texting with a source about this just a little bit ago. The NFL is going to be making a statement here. Wear your masks. And they have, again, ramped up the intensive protocols, made it mandatory for all teams starting last Saturday. They are requiring masks on sidelines for guys who are not immediately substituting into games. They've told all the players, hey, limit your post-game interactions to be as brief as possible. And so they've been telling guys until they've been blue in the face, hey, you're going to wear your mask in these meetings. You're going to be socially distanced. And when they look at the film from inside the facilities and see that these guys aren't wearing masks, well, this is the punishment. They've said, we are going to be okay with holding out guys who do not have the virus, but we are not 100% sure. And if they feel that they are not 100% sure, because there was one person who was a confirmed positive in a room with other guys who were not wearing masks, then they're not going to let those guys play. And listen, it could be the kicker, it can be a couple of wide receivers. We've seen it across the board throughout the NFL all season, but this is the first time it's happened at the quarterback position. So, we've talked about this any number of times, almost every week. I'm on here talking about this, but the difference here is it's the quarterback position. Well, the NFL is going to say, listen, you've talked about it every week. It's happened every week. We've still gone on with almost all of these games when we can certainly identify and isolate the virus. Well, we've identified it, we've isolated it, just so happened to be the quarterback position.
Well, if it's going to be Kendall Hinton, going to be an interesting matchup here. Taysom Hill's going to run the football. Kendall Hinton's going to run the football. It'll be an interesting matchup to see, and right now it is on. The game is scheduled 4:05 Eastern time on Sunday in Denver. Jonathan Jones with the very latest here on CBS Sports HQ. Jonathan, thank you.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.